of the things that we talked about last night was the whole issue of not necessarily just parnasa, but I guess, if you will, the issue that we're suffering in our current generation as a generation of either stingy people, people that are very cheap, or people that just decide to buy mitzvot instead of do mitzvot. Meaning that people liking tzedakah that has some type of fame in it, some type of recognition in it. So if you tell them, listen, if you donate, we'll put your name on your, on a bet knesset, they'll do it. If you donate, we'll put your name on a sefer Torah, they'll do it. If you donate, we're going to announce to the Keilah that you sponsored the Hanukkah party, they'll donate. But if you tell them, listen, if you donate, you may be able to be a partner in saving a Jew from going to eternal GEHINNOM, chas v'shalom, not as many people are as excited. Now, this is one of the systemic problems that our nation suffers as of now. One reason is because we're not taught what is the meaning of actually helping people do tshuva. We're not really taught the significance behind tshuva. We're not taught of how much we actually need Am Yisrael. We need, each one of us, whether we did tshuva or in the process of tshuva or doing tshuva or haven't done anything yet, we need the rest of the nation to do tshuva. Each and every single person that's part of Am Yisrael, and as a matter of fact, each and every single person that's part of the world, needs to understand that it's for their best interest for Am Yisrael to do tshuva. Because when Am Yisrael does tshuva, when Am Yisrael is close to Hashem, the whole world benefits. If you look at the times of, let's say, for example, Shlomo HaMelech, the whole world was prospering. The nation was righteous. Shlomo was an amazing judge, never had a war, made peace with all of the countries. There was an endless amount of reward that was being gifted to Am Yisrael and all of the nations as a result of it. The same goes throughout all of history. Any time we've actually had Am Yisrael close to Hashem, the whole world benefited out of it. Any times that we've had Am Yisrael far from Hashem, Am Yisrael suffered, and sometimes the world at large suffered along with it. Sometimes at the same time, sometimes shortly after. So if we knew and believed, knowing is half the battle. Many people know there's a God. They know there has to be some type of creator. But believing requires you to change. So not everybody believes. You don't need to be a genius to know that there's a God. Even though knowledge means you obviously have to feel it, but we're talking about in a lesser terms, a different context of the language. Knowing that there has to be some type of creator is just common sense. But believing in the God of Israel requires life changes. And many people spend their entire lives trying to convince themselves and everyone around them that there's no God. Or that God doesn't mean what he actually said. Or that maybe he didn't even say it. I had Baruch Hashem, a nice kaparat avonot in the last 2 Sundays. I had to go to the dentist. And I went to the dentist, my tooth hurt. For one of the sins that I've made throughout my life. That's what happens, you make sins, you have to pay for them. So eventually, maybe it's a sin I made a year ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, who knows? But at some point, you have to pay the bill. Baruch Hashem, it's here and not there. So I had a toothache. So I go to the dentist, and he tells me, oh, you came for root canal, Baruch Hashem. Saying, you came for a root canal. I thought it was maybe, a little small filling or something. He's telling me, no, you have a root canal. But interesting news is that you actually need 2 root canals. Not 1, 2. So if you've been watching, my speech is a little different than the last couple of weeks. It's because I've had 2 root canals, not 1, 2. Recovering from 1 root canal is already enough of a nightmare. 2 root canals, amash, extra kaparat avonot. So anyway, why am I telling you about my teeth? Because I learn a lot being in his dentist's office. He's a very nice guy. And he has, like, it's become common in these years, dentist's office, they have a TV. And Baruch Hashem, I don't watch TV for already a long time. But he has this TV. And he puts whatever, puts Nature Channel and PBS and all types of things. And I'm sitting there for 3 hours, 3.5 hours, and he has this Nature Channel of how, the world is, I guess some type of Discovery Channel or National Geographic. So one of these channels that talks about nature, talks about the world, talks about the chemicals, the things that make up the world, the fish, the amoebas, the volcanoes, so on, nature. So for 3 hours I'm hearing this thing. I'm hearing this show in the background, and he's talking about, look at this perfection of nature and how the volcano has to has to do all this, and there's certain people that sacrifice their life in order to maintain a low fire at the volcano because it's very dangerous, but there's a lot of chemicals there, and it's dangerous and it's poisonous. And then there's another guy that's diving into the water that's inside caves, and he was able to document how the water changes. And then there's another guy that's a special fisherman for a special type of, some type of fish that lights up like as if they have, literally, it's a little octopus.
Like a fluorescent kind of.
And he lights up like as if he has a light bulb attached to him. And so on and so forth. All these, amazing things in nature. So that was the first appointment. The second appointment also had the same similar show on. But in the second appointment, I came prepared. The second appointment, after we finished the appointment, finished the Kaparat Avonot by Hashem, or at least the first part. The second part of the Kaparat Avonot is at home when the numbing wears off. That's unusual amount of fun. So at the end of the second one, I told him here, and I give him one of my KIRUV packages. He's like, oh wow, thank you, I appreciate it. What's this? And he asked me a few things about religion. He asked me a few things about God. We talked a little bit about it before, and I didn't just give it to him for no reason. And anyway, I gave him one of the books that's in our KIRUV package, and I said, well, you see, the last 3 hours I've been listening to this scientist trying to convince himself and the audience that nature came by itself. This perfection in nature, the light and the light bulb that the octopus is holding, and the tunnel that has perfectly clear water, but then it changes, and the volcano that needs this and needs that, and does this and does that, and all these wonderful things. 3.5 hours he's explaining to his audience and himself that everything just came to be. It's all just chemicals, and really there's just all of these chemicals is approximately 7 dozen or so chemicals. I think, the periodic table has 92 different elements. So you have all, pretty much, whether it's outer space or inner space or somewhere in between, if it's light years away or it's right next door, it's all the same thing. Water is water, carbon is carbon, hydrogen is hydrogen, it's all the same thing. It all came to be. So for 3 hours he's trying to convince himself and the audience that it's all by luck. All just, millions of years. So I said, here's a book that shows that everything that he said is actually already known by our Torah and our sages from 3,300 years ago, and explains how there's no possible way that he's right. People think that just because we discovered a few things under a microscope, that means that we're enlightened. And people are trying to convince themselves that the God of Israel is either non-existent, chas v'shalom, or is tired, old, broke, all types of things. And in last night's shiur, I said a story about a guy that called me, and he was very, very upset at me. He left me a message. I usually don't pick up the phone, so if you call me and I don't pick up the phone, don't feel upset. It's nothing. Personal. I generally don't pick up the phone. I'm usually doing something. I'm either on the phone already, or I'm in the middle of studying or something else. I generally don't pick up the phone for people that I know. For people that I don't know, I definitely don't pick up the phone, even if I'm not busy. So it's better, if you want to reach me, it's better you send me a text, you send me a message, or you leave a voicemail. I always return calls. I always return messages. But generally, as far as picking up the phone, I don't pick it up. So this guy called a few times, and eventually he left a message. And he was very, very angry with me. He said that he saw one of my, video clips. I doubt he saw a whole shiur, but he saw a video clip of how I talk about emunah. And according to our Torah, if you have a high level of emunah, then you could literally get to a point of living with complete confidence that Hashem will take care of everything. Your parnasah, your refuah, everything. You can get, not everybody has this obviously, but you can get to that level. Everyone can. And he said that what I said was completely irresponsible. I should be ashamed of myself. And that, what about ishtadlut? What about trying, effort? What about helping the Creator, becoming partners with the Creator in creation? What about helping God? So the question is, does God need help? In case someone is not going to watch the entire shiur, to answer the question, if your God needs help, he's not the real God. If your God died 2,000 years ago, he's not the real God. If your God needs advice once in a while, he's not the real God. If your God needs a loan, needs some money, because he doesn't have any, he spent it all on Noach. They ruined the whole world. He was depending on the world going, he already made one-time investment in creation. Adam, Eve, he invested all the money. He didn't realize that just 1,500 years later, they're going to ruin the whole thing. He's going to have to rebuild it. He didn't know, so he had to take a mortgage, and he's been paying it off for the last 4,000 years. If that's your God and you need a loan, he's not the real God. So in case you don't watch the whole shiur, that's the answer. But the question is, does God need our help? Does what this person said, who was very angry at me and called me shameful for explaining that you should, or at least suggesting that we should strive to have emunah, he was very upset with me. Does he actually have any valid points, is really the question. The second question we're going to try to answer today is a continuation of last night's shiur, where people have asked me several times, there's some of these things that we mentioned in the shiurim about what happens if somebody sins. There's Gan Eden, there's for righteous, there's GEHINNOM for wicked. This GEHINNOM part doesn't sound like much fun. Seems more like my root canals, just a lot more of it. So how do we know if God forgave us? Did he send us an email? Send us a text message? Jing, okay, I forgave you, everything's good. Go about your business. Well, how do we know? How do we know if God forgave us? According to the Christians, God didn't forget Am Yisrael, and that's why he gave the Christians the New Testament. And that's what he said in the New Testament, that very few Jews are actually going to survive. According to the New Testament, only 144,000 Jews are going to survive the end of times. But 2.5 billion Christians are going to survive somehow. So we're fulfilling 613 mitzvot, some less, some all, whatever. But them that they're filling no mitzvot whatsoever, they're going to survive, we're going to suffer. How that makes sense to anybody, I don't know, but that's what the book says. That's why we know it's a man-made book, because it's complete nonsense. It doesn't even make logical sense, let alone divine sense. The Muslims say that God gave up on us. We made too many mistakes. This week's parasha, again, God punishes us. Again, we complain. But again, God forgives us. Nowhere in the Torah does it say that God didn't forgive us. As a matter of fact, the Tana Devei Eliyahu Navi, who gave us some Divrei Torah, he said that when Yeshua ben Nun, Joshua, rebuked the nation, he told them, if you keep sinning, God's eventually not going to forgive you. He's going to punish you. He's going to send you to GEHINNOM. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. God came to Yeshua ben Nun and he said, hey, you saying Lashon Hara about me? Why are you telling the nation I'm not going to forgive them? Didn't I forgive them after the golden calf? We just got married. They cheated on me a week later. Didn't I forgive them after they complained about the man, even though it tasted like anything they wanted? They still said it wasn't good. How could it not be good? It tastes like you want. So only if what you want doesn't taste good. It's your fault. It's not my fault. You want an ice cream? I gave you ice cream. Now you want steak. It's my fault you want steak now? You want ice cream? I give you ice cream. If you want steak, tomorrow you're going to have steak. You complain with the man. And then even after that, you complain about the water. And then you complain about Moshe. And then you complain about the land. You complain. And each time I forgave you. You went and you actually went with the goyim. You sent the men to be with all the goyot. Prostitution, immodesty, the things that I hate. If it wasn't for Pinchas, I would have destroyed all of you. And I still forgave you. So Yeshua ben Nun, my son, why are you telling them? Why are you telling them Lashon Hara about me? That I'm not going to forgive them. You Gdol Ador. Yeshua ben Nun says, I said it because I wanted to scare them, because that's the only way they're going to start doing tshuva and start listening to you. And Eliyahu Navi says that God kissed his forehead and his hands. He took the hands of Yeshua ben Nun and he kissed them. Like you kiss a tzaddik. He says, you're right. That's the same system I use. When they were at Mount Sinai and they heard my voice, they all died. And they complained to Moshe, go to the mountain. You talk to him. We'll do whatever he says and then we'll hear what he actually said. We'll do it. And Moshe said, don't be scared. He spoke to them for me. He said, don't be scared. He's just scaring you because that's the only way that you're not going to sin. The only way you're going to know what to do is when you know if there's a consequence, if there's a price for each decision. If the menu has no prices, then only a fool wouldn't order everything. If someone gives you a menu at a high-end restaurant and there's no prices, everything says free next to it, only a fool wouldn't order everything on the menu. And as much of it as you possibly can get, it's free. What do you care? Take it home, sell it. It's free. But if the waiter adjusts the menu and says, no, just a shade of light made it look like free, but in reality, it's a 3-digit number with a $sign next to each one. So each one is no less than $100. Now everything has changed. Now you don't want every steak on the menu. You're deciding whether you can even afford one steak. Now you're not really sure if you want an appetizer. You're deciding whether this is even the right restaurant for you to be in. Because you know the cost. You know there's a price for what your decision is going to be. Hashem Yitbarach told Am Yisrael, I am your God that took you out of Egypt. Not because there was a question in anyone's mind, but it served as a reminder for all generations that the nation of Israel began at the Exodus. Even though God was there when He created the world, there was no witnesses. But the Exodus, there were millions and millions of witnesses. So He said this is the beginning. But He spoke using His voice. We heard it. We couldn't handle it. We died. And God brought us back to life. And He said, listen, I know it's scary, but it's good to be scared of me. I'm your God. I'm not your friend. I'm not your brother. I'm not your sister. I'm God. If you're not scared of God, He's not God. If no one's paying attention to the king, He's not the king. When a servant is asked to do something by the king, it's really not a request, it's an order. If he refuses, the king is not allowed to say, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. You're a nice guy. Just go home. Go take the day off. Take the day off. You seem hot. You seem bothered. You seem sick. There's this thing. Someone who disobeys the king dies. According to the Torah, a king is not allowed to allow people to dishonor him. Not allowed. Because the kinghood is not really his. Hashem picked him to be king. So the question is, how do we know if this King of Kings needs our help to be a king? And two, how do we know that this King of Kings forgave us? Because according to Chazal, according to our sages, if He didn't forgive us, the punishment is dear.
I've heard enough. New arrival screams, echoing through the hallway to know that this ain't good. Once they pass them through the infierno, they don't come back. It's enough to make you go crazy.
Do not think we fear you, Spirit. We know your power is born of evil. This is your last night in the land of the living. You understand me, malevolent demon?
There are no shortcuts, no tricks, no magic. The very cave you fear possesses the cure you seek. Go within. Just know, once you cross that threshold, there is only one way out.
There was a rich family that lived here called the Hetheringtons, and unfortunately, their daughter passed away of a heart attack inside the house. Basically, they were so devastated that they reached out to people claiming to be psychic mediums. They actually weren't psychic mediums. They opened up a total of 11 portals inside this house and invited spirits and entities from all different kinds of dimensions.
Well, I think there are certain pieces of evidence that there is an afterlife.
Resurrection of the dead is affirmed pretty clearly in the Talmud and the Midrash.
To be honest with you, to give this lecture is a nightmare. If it was up to me, I wouldn't. There's going to be some graphic details.
This place is a maze.
That person after death went to a place called Sheol.
This is by far the largest near-death experience study that has ever been conducted.
People go to a place and they experience weird things. And sometimes they actually will see a character of some type. Well, where did that come from?
I don't know why that one chain is swinging back there.
They may describe feeling profoundly peaceful, seeing a bright, warm, welcoming light. Some people describe watching doctors and nurses working on them with incredible accuracy.
Next thing I knew, I was above my body watching the operation.
How long did you feel like you were gone?
I went to a place of timelessness. And so what that means, it could have been a second, could have been 5 minutes. I don't know.
Can you imagine waking up from your sleep and not being able to move?
As I'm lying there, I realized that there's an evil presence next to me.
Do you believe that angels, demons exist?
Holy dude, get out of here! Oh my god, dude!
Strange things keep happening. Bizarre nightmares, as if I'm on fire.
Whoa, what the hell is this? Man, I've got bad chest pain.
Satan's Hollow is what it's called, the portal to hell.
Some people calling it an eye of fire, while others said it looked like the portal to hell opening up.
And the next thing I know, I was outside of my body, looking at my body.
What I'm going to do is called claromancy, the art of throwing lots or throwing bones.
2,000 years of experience, passed down, recorded, of how demons work.
God has them all on a leash, and he lets the leash go enough to let them tempt us, because that's what makes us spiritually stronger.
I'm trying to be as graphic as possible so you understand what we're talking about.
It's your ticket to reality. It's your ticket to freedom. It's your ticket to immortality.
Is there an afterlife? Is there a
This
God?
is the type of information that can keep you away from the Yetzirah.
What happens to us after we die?